I know, in his left leg, suffered a lower right leg injury working out on Wednesday. He will undergo an MRI today. Obviously, we are all hoping that it is nothing serious. Max, I will start with you. What was your initial reaction when you heard this?
Heartbreaking.
Oh, Jay Williams is here too. Good to have you, Jay.
What's going on, Jay? His father, Michael Thompson, who's a two-time NBA champ with the Lakers, backing up Kareem, was the #1 overall draft pick by Portland, was a 20-10, 20-12 guy before he got to the Lakers, does LA radio, and I used to work the radio a lot with Michael Thompson. And so I've been watching Klay for a long time, the ups and downs and the hopes and like as is the case with many people who followed certain athletes, I feel like emotionally invested in his career. This is devastating. First of all, the injury that he was coming back from, people were like, oh, thank God it's not an Achilles. But I think people were a little quick to just assume he was going to be the same guy. That's a very serious, catastrophic injury that Klay was recovering from. And don't forget, this kid is so tough, he didn't want to come out. He wanted to play on one leg. Like he is one of the all-time great two-way guards in terms of the level of his shooting, capable of getting hotter than anyone who ever lived. He once scored 26 points in a quarter, and it was the second highest quarter that he had that season. Quarter, because he went for 37 in another quarter, right? Like the all-time record. And he was an excellent defender, and as I said, tough as nails. A big part of what made Golden State so special. So coming back off a catastrophic injury, where people are like, oh, thank God it's not an Achilles, but oh my God, this is really bad. To now have something that could be the worst case scenario is a total nightmare. I'm just hoping with everyone else, I'm sure, that what the news we get back today is not a worst case scenario.
We all are. And let me just say this quickly. Jay, you did an absolute excellent job on the draft coverage last night. Watched the whole thing. So kudos to you. But Stephen A., you always have your ear to the street. What are you hearing about this?
Well, first of all, I was on SportsCenter last night talking about how the Warriors were championship contenders, and it was in the first segment of the show. And by the bottom of the hour, they had given me the news about what transpired with Klay Thompson, and I said, "This is nightmarish. Their championship hopes have just gone out the window." And then immediately after, or not immediately after, but a few hours later that evening, I got word that Klay Thompson, there was movement with his calf muscle, which is supposed to be a good sign that there's nothing torn there. There's an MRI scheduled within the next 30 minutes or so. He's having an MRI, and it will be determined whether or not something has been torn or what have you, and then they'll know definitively. So we should know right around the time of the end of the show whether or not Klay Thompson is going to be gone for a significant period of time based on this injury that he sustained yesterday. At the end of the day, here's what it comes down to. With or without Klay, because of Steph Curry, if you have other bodies that are healthy, the Andrew Wiggins of the world, the James Wiseman, who I think is a good pickup for them, the Draymond Greens of the world, along with what we saw from other guys that were in the lineup for them last year, I think this team can squeeze into the playoffs. But the championship aspirations are out the window. You're not winning a championship without Klay Thompson, just like you're not winning a championship without Steph Curry. It's the combination of both that makes them who they are. Together and healthy, they are the greatest shooting backcourt that I have ever seen in the history of the game. They're the greatest shooting backcourt, as far as I'm concerned, since mankind. That's how great they are as snipers, as shooters. And together, you cannot dismiss them. You cannot count them out. But if one of them is missing, regardless of which one it is, their championship hopes go out the window, particularly with KD no longer being there. That's how significant this blow is. Any championship aspirations that the Golden State Warriors have go right out the window if Klay Thompson can't play. They can make the playoffs. They can squeeze in there. But championship contention, no way.
Hey, I even take it a step further. I mean, Andrew Wiggins is still a really good player. But, then you're asking Stephen Curry to do things at a volume rate. And what we've seen is when Steph has to do things and play a lot of minutes every single night, he's been prone to having injuries as well. I mean, look what happened to him this year. Right, so the two go hand in hand together. Do you know that Klay Thompson since 2013-14 has ran the third most miles in the NBA behind only Dame Dollar and LeBron James? Like, he is such a key cog in that wheel because he is constantly moving. They run him off so many down screens, flare screens, drag screens. They do so many different things with him that he constantly keeps the defense on their toes, which allows Stephen Curry to then play off of the ball as well or on the ball. And you can't abide all your attention to just Steph. So, look, I agree with you, Stephen A. If there's no Klay Thompson on the court, not only are there aspirations to win a world championship out the window, I don't know if they squeeze to make the playoffs. They're fighting for that. Yeah. Phoenix is coming. CP3, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, like they have a lot of the pieces there, guys. Like the West is still loaded. I mean, Houston, they still have James Harden and Russell Westbrook. For now, they may be disgruntled for a while, but they still have those pieces that can still fight. It's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out.
This is a night in turn. Like, first, I want to you want to deal with the kind of personal side of it for Klay Thompson, of course, and your heart goes out to it. If we're talking about the basketball of it all, guys, this is a total disaster and nightmare. Let me ask you something, because Steph Curry is a mobile artillery unit, right? His handles get him anywhere he needs to go, and his shooting is like probably the greatest ever when you consider how he's on the move, right? Who else can shoot the ball on this team? Now, tell me another shooter on the team who's going to get serious minutes. Wiggins will take a bunch of threes. He's a below-average shooter. Well, Pascal, this is a nice young player. Doesn't shoot.
I'd like to answer that, Matt.
They just drafted Wiseman. That's not a shooter. Okay, Draymond Green. Draymond Green only once or twice shot well from three because Steph gave him, and Klay gave him all the space in the world to do it. But he's a below-average shooter from distance. They don't have a single other guy who's going to get significant minutes on the team who can shoot worth a lick. The shooting's gone. They needed Klay more than ever.
First of all, I think you're wrong. And here's why I think you're wrong, Max. First of all, they don't have to have shooters if you have people who can score, which Andrew Wiggins can, because the brother has averaged over 20 a game for the last few years. Let's remember that. You look at some of the players that they put on the court last year. That was without Steph and without Klay. Well, understand the significance of Klay Thompson. First of all, this is a system that we have to give more credit to than it's due, than it's received. Mm-hmm. Steve Kerr has obviously proven himself to be an exceptional coach. I got news for you, and Jay, you can appreciate this. Steph Curry, as great of a shooter as he is, the handle is mad crazy. We get all of that. His movement without the basketball is something special, which is what Max just alluded to. Think about the picks and the screens to set up open shots. You got guys that are practical bench warmers, for crying out loud, throwing the ball, throwing no-look passes over their head to Klay, to Steph, because everybody knows where he is. They know instinctually to get him the damn ball. His movement without the ball is sublime, and you take that into consideration along with the system that Steve Kerr has been running for years, the experience that they got without Klay and Steph on the court, and then you combine that with what you're seeing in the Western Conference. We appreciate what we've seen from Memphis. We understand Phoenix is coming. We know that Houston will, in all likelihood, take a step back. I am not going to worry about the Warriors making the playoffs. I think they could get in as a 7th, 8th, maybe even high as a 6th seed. All I'm saying is they're going home in the first round. They're not winning beyond that because I don't think they have the personnel to do it. But I do think they have the personnel to get to the playoffs over the course of 72 games, if healthy.
Stephen A., all I can say on the back end of this conversation very quickly is that, you know, it was tough to make that decision because you found out about the injury of Klay Thompson 2 hours before the draft. But I do feel like Bob Myers and company missed their mark on this draft, especially if Klay Thompson is out for the season. James Wiseman, I think, is a great piece. He's a great additive piece. The versatility, his skill set brings that to the table. But if it's just Steph and Andrew Wiggins, one of the things that made Klay good as well as his playmaking ability, I do think that LaMelo Ball could have helped this team from a playmaking perspective to have Steph play off the ball. Because when we see Steph with the ball, that's when it starts to be problematic for this team.
Jay, hold that thought, because that's where I want to move this conversation exactly right now. Obviously, the Warriors finishing with the worst record in the NBA. We know that's due to injury. They have the second overall pick. They take James Wiseman out of Memphis. Max, all things considered, including what Jay just said, Klay's latest injury, was this the right choice?
No, it was the wrong choice. Definitively the wrong choice. And look, Stephen A., I hear what you're saying. And by the way, Steve Kerr doesn't have to run a system. Steve Kerr, if he's a great coach, and I believe he is, will be able to adapt, and maybe they can have a completely different style offense that fits the, not try to fit a round peg in a square hole, but now, have another kind of offense. They have a lot of athletes. They can do a lot of things, right? I'm not talking about that, guys. I'm not saying Wiseman won't be a very good player, at least the DeAndre Jordan type. If that's his floor, and that's what I'm hearing, scouts think his floor is DeAndre Jordan, that's a hell of a player. If you ain't going to be any worse than that, a hell of a player, right? But there is a requisite amount of shooting you need in the modern NBA from distance. See, I'm not saying they can't play another style. I'm saying let's look at the lineup they're going to run out there. Steph's the greatest shooter ever, right? Mm-hmm. Who else can shoot at all? Wiggins is a bad shooter. He'll shoot a lot of threes, like a 33% shooter. And that's because he's made improvements. He is not a shooter. Draymond has been awful from three. And that's playing on the Warriors where he gets the spacing, right? Because where Steph and Klay launch from, not all threes are created equal. It gives the defense has to rotate from farther away. So Dre has more time. And even with that, the dude's shooting under 30% from three. Had one or two seasons. Wiseman's not a shooter. Pascal is not a shooter. Show me where the shooting comes. You need.
I am so fascinated by you. I'm so fascinated. I'm so fascinated by you talking to basketball people like you know more than us. We watch the games. We know what the hell you're talking about. But in the end, when you look at the Western Conference, you not just look at the team we're talking about here. We got to look at some of the other teams and what they're expected to do or not expected to do. Portland was a question mark. They came on strong in the bubble. Before the bubble, they weren't qualifying for the playoffs. Memphis was a question mark. We understand that. New Orleans was a question mark. They could be on the come up. I'm saying take into account coaching. Take into account experience. Take into account marksmanship. The bottom line is Andrew Wiggins was no scrub. If Jimmy Butler can join Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins and turn them into a playoff team from a perennial lottery team, I think a healthy Steph Curry in that system, being coached by Steve Kerr, shooting the ball the way that he can shoot, with Draymond not looking for him to shoot, but defend, rebound, pushing the ball up the floor, creating playmaking opportunities for other guys, finally having a post presence, because it damn sure wasn't Zsa Jr. or Andrew Bogut from years ago. You take all of those things into consideration. I'm talking about potentially squeezing into a playoff. That's all I'm talking about here. We're out of the championship equation. We get all of that. But can we definitively look here and go like this? All of those teams I mentioned, you know for beyond a shadow of a doubt that they're going to step up and produce better than Golden State. Can we definitively say that?
Wiseman's the right choice, Stephen A.? So you're saying
I think so, absolutely.
Stephen A.
I think so, yes. Yes.
Stephen A., you said Andrew Bogut, but didn't Andrew Bogut win a world championship with the Golden State Warriors?
No. I mean, no. I'm not knocking Bogut. Hold on, Jay. I'm not knocking Bogut. I'm talking about offensively, he was not a presence. Wiseman will be a presence in the low post offensively. I know that Bogut was great defensively as a rim protector.
All I'm saying, Stephen A., is like Wiseman's not going to be a guy that you throw the ball to on the block and say, hey, go get me 20. He's going to be utilized in the continuity system that Steve Kerr has, which means he's going to be on the perimeter. And I guess it leads to a lot of questions, right? How do you play Draymond Green and Wiseman together? I mean, because they're both kind of similar players, which is going to be interesting. And then I hate talking about this, but it's been factual when Klay has not been on the court, is that when you don't have another playmaker to make life easy for Steph, that means that the ball has to be in Steph's hands more because he has to be that playmaker. And when I've seen the ball be in Steph's hands more, the volume increases. I typically have seen him get hurt when he's being asked to do a lot more because Klay has been able to relieve so much of that load.
Yeah, but Jay, listen, forgive me. Of course, if guys get hurt, that changes it. We're I'm saying if Steph were healthy, right now he's healthy. Of course, if he gets hurt, they change everything. All I'm saying, that's a given. But if Steph stays healthy, with the lineup that they presently have, you almost hold on, Max. You almost made me hold on. You almost made me laugh with this, Jay, and here's why. You said you can't go to Wiseman for 20 points. Well, guess what? Andrew Bogut never gave you more than 7. Can you go to Wiseman for 13?
No.
Can you go to him for 15, Jay? I'm talking about in single coverage because you got to pay attention. Can you do that?
Stephen A., I'm going to tell you, the way Bogut was used because of his shooting ability, it made him such a threat because he could shoot the ball, and it put him in a lot of PNRs, and it really caused the defense to have issues when you guard all the things that Klay Thompson and Steph did off the ball movement of Bogut in his pick due to his perimeter shooting to a degree. It was a threat. And I don't think James Wiseman has to learn how to shoot the ball.
Draymond Green was always Steph's pick and roll partner. I always thought until KD got there, actually the second most important player on the team because of that. And whether or not Wiseman can also do that, I ask you again, Stephen A., I'm not questioning that they have talent. They have talent. Where does the shooting come from? I don't care how different you play. You must have a base level of shooting, or else you're counting by twos. Where does it come from?
Well, let me answer that.
They have to make a move, right?
Let me answer that. Let me answer that. Let me answer that. The fact of the matter is that if you have a marksman who is so lethal that he draws attention, he creates open shots, and dudes who usually can't shoot find a way to shoot just a tad bit better because they're wide open. It happens. It couldn't happen last year with Steph and Klay both gone, but with a guy on the court, it could create shooting opportunities for other people. Good enough for them to win during the regular season before going home in the first round of the playoffs.
We just saw this with Steph and Klay. Dre stopped being able to shoot the three. He had 1 or 2 good seasons. That's with Steph and Klay on the court, and Draymond was known as a 5 that you could play 5 out with. Right? Small ball, the death lineup.
Stephen A., are you
not only Draymond was the pick and roll guy, and they could swarm defensively, but he could also knock down outside shots. He has not been able to do that recently.
Stephen A., I would agree with you. I still think they have a legitimate shot at making the playoffs. Let's not forget, too, that there's going to be a play-in scenario where 9 and 10 have a chance to get in. Like, they can get in. I'm just saying that from what I've seen, the history, the body of work, that what happens is when Klay is not on the court and you don't have that shooting option like Max is talking about, it increases the probability of Stephen Curry getting hurt. He has ankle issues. We all know about this, right? One of the reasons you mitigate that is you play him off the ball. You don't force him to do so much with the ball because he's forced to take a lot of tough shots. And that's my only thing is, like, I feel like it's a turn ankle away from Golden State being exactly what they were last year, even if having Andrew Wiggins on his team.
Well, congratulations to you, Jay. I thought we were talking basketball, not probabilities. Well, should I call you Jay Kellerman? That's number 1. Number 2, Andrew Wiggins. He did average 19 points a game last year.
What are you talking about?
Hold on. Wait a minute. He did average 19 points a game last year, and on top of it all, shot 45% from the field and 34% from three-point range. I mean, my God, stop the presses. So they got nobody else to score at all other than Steph. They have no weapons whatsoever other than Steph. I'm just saying I beg to differ. Not only that, I did say playoff and go home in the first round. I didn't take this discussion beyond that. I said playoffs, go home in the first round, which you just acknowledged is possible.
Let's get into
how efficiently are they scoring?
Let's get into basketball, Stephen A. Why is there so much open floor when you play against Golden State? Why is there so many areas?
What do you mean? Why is there so much open floor
when you play against Golden State? Because you constantly have
because Steph is a liability defensively.
All that forces defenses to space out. You force defense. So all I'm saying to you is that Andrew Wiggins isn't the dead-eye shooter that Klay is. You can still pack paints. You can pack the paint to a degree. I would live with Andrew Wiggins taking 10 to 15 threes a game. Okay, Andrew Wiggins, go ahead and beat us. It's not the same caliber of shooting that you have from Klay Thompson. I think they can make the playoffs. I'm just saying it's not going to be that easy like you're saying it's going to be.
if you say you think they can make the playoffs, then Jay, make it simple. You agree with me because that's all I'm saying. They can make the playoffs and go home in the first round. That's what I said 20 minutes ago. First, and then make it in the first round. And secondly, Jay, Max, I'm not listening to you right now. Jay, here's the deal. You said Andrew Bogut was a scoring threat. We have to have a discussion about that. I mean, you got some explaining to do on that one, Jay Williams. Andrew Bogut, a scoring threat? You got something explaining to do. You really do.
Scoring threat. I'm talking about his ability to shoot the ball here and there as a screener and a roller.
The last time Andrew Bogut made a jump shot, you